Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another Roadtrek Rally session. And this morning we got a great presentation for you from our friend Harish, who in the past has been involved with the Roadtrek International Group. And he has prepared a very good refresher course and tutorial on operation and maintenance of our Roadtreks, mainly related to the Dodge and Chevy chassis. There may be some overlap, but it's great to have you on here, Harish. Thank you so much for offering to do this. So Harish, if you want to come on and say hello and share your PowerPoint screen whenever it's convenient for you, and we'll get started.
Okay, let me just say hello to everybody. All right, so what I want to say is that this is a refresher course, and it is not determined to be a substitute for what you have in your manual. Your manual is still the best source of information about your course. Now, these are the main items that we will be talking about. And I think at certain points during the presentation, I will pause so that we can answer questions. The main topics are listed here, and there is some additional topics. They're also listed. I'll just leave it on the screen for a minute so that you can see. There are some things that you have to do before you leave home. And the most important thing I can suggest is that you make sure that all your appliances are working properly. It's too late to find out when you are 500 kilometers from home to find out that your fridge is not working, or your heater is not working, or your hot water tank is not working. So make sure that you check everything and make sure that you have enough liquids in your Roadtrek, like propane and gas and water and so on. Most people, what they do is they make a little pre-trip checklist and they go by the checklist. Now we come to the control panel. This is, most people have control panel like this. As you can see, it has various lights on it. It tells you the situation about the gas and propane, or the battery, the gray water, the holding water, and the fresh water tank. These lights tell you how much it is filled. Some people refer to these lights as idiot lights because many cases they don't work. I have been very lucky that my lights have always been working. And I think there's a trick to that, especially the freshwater, holding water, and gray water lights. And the trick is that you must really clean out your black water tank properly at the end of each trip. And one of the things that I usually do is I use a gadget, which is like a hose with a twist. I have got it here with a thing at the bottom, a brass tip which rotates, and it cleans out the tank. So if your lights are not working, I think you can try and make sure that you can clean out the tanks properly so to make sure the lights are working. Now, as far as leveling is concerned, I don't pay too much attention to leveling because most of the time the sites are reasonably level. What I do is I try to make the rear of the Roadtrek slightly higher than the front. And the reason for that is that when I open the washroom door, the toilet door, then the door swings out and doesn't come back to me. So I just make it about an inch higher at the back. Other than that, most people think that normal level within an inch of front and back should be okay for your fridge. The fridge works on an absorption basis, ammonia absorption basis, and if it's too much out of level, the fridge will not work for you. The other thing is the checking. When you check, you have to check the voltage on the. If you are hooked up to power, you have to check the voltage. There are several gadgets that are available to check the voltage. And recently there was a discussion about the things that you have to make sure that the voltage does not fluctuate too much. There are all kinds of gadgets available. One of them is called Surge Guard. So I had a kind of expensive experience of because of voltage fluctuation. Last summer when I camped at a campground, it was completely full because of COVID. The campground was closed, but it suddenly opened and it was completely inundated with people. And as a result, the voltage was fluctuating. It was summertime. I had my air conditioner going on, and I realized that the control box was getting warm. When I came back, I found out that even though the air conditioner was working, when I opened up the control box, many of the wires going to the neutral bar were burnt. Ended up replacing the whole control box. So moral of the story is that if you can have a gadget that will check the voltage on your thing, on your pole where you hook up, it will be a good idea. There are some gadgets shown here to check the voltage. I'm trying to see if we can we break here for a minute so that if you have any questions so far?
Yeah, I don't see any questions in the chat box, but if anybody has a question, just push your space bar to toggle on your mic and feel free to ask it, keeping in mind that other topics are yet to come. So
exactly.
If you've got any questions on what Harish has covered so far, now's your chance to push your space bar and toggle on your microphone and ask it. I guess not. Go ahead, Harish, carry on.
Okay, so there's a couple of points here. I already talked about the shore power. As far as the generator is concerned, those people who have the generator, obviously it's not a good idea to run the generator when you are in a crowded campground because it will be a noise generator. And so the thing to do is to, in many places, most people, if they use a generator, they ask their neighbors if it's okay to use a generator for a little while. If you are boondocking, of course, there's no problem. You can use the generator. The thing about generator is that you have to make sure that it is working properly. And the secret to making sure that the generator is working properly is to make sure that you run it off and on. Even during the winter time, I run my generator for about 2 hours per month. It is called exercising the generator, and that keeps the generator going. Another thing I should point out is that there's a product that you can buy at a store. It is called Seafoam. This product is extremely useful for making the, let me turn it around, Seafoam, for running or cleaning the carburetor in the generator and running it smoothly. What I usually do is I put a can of Seafoam every second fill. Every other time I fill up the gas tank, I put a can of this Seafoam. Also, sometime if the gas goes to say quarter of a tank, I put a can of this and run the generator for about an hour. The whole idea is to keep the carburetor in the generator working. Some people have inverters on their rigs. I don't have an inverter. I have a gadget which is called a power box. It works like an inverter, but it also is an additional battery that I can use. So the important thing to remember is that with the inverters, unless you have one of the more recent ones, you can only power small appliances like computers and iPhones and stuff like that. You cannot really, on an inverter, you cannot run the air conditioner or you cannot run the microwave. So the inverters, I think they are meant for small appliances. When you are traveling, when you are driving, the inverter will keep charged up. So if you don't have an inverter, you can kind of add some sort of an inverter yourself. There are safety monitors in the Roadtrek for carbon monoxide, propane, and smoke. The important thing about these safety monitors is that you have to keep them up to date. I didn't realize that. I thought my monitor was working because there's a test button there, and you just check the test button, and if it beeps, it knows it's working. So when I talked to the technician at Mobile Life, he says that even though it is working, it's a good idea to replace them every 5 to 10 years. So it's just a safety feature. You can, and the other thing about the monitors is that on the control panel that I showed earlier, there's a switch which is called the battery switch. If the battery switch is left on and the road track is sitting on your driveway, a certain point will come and your battery, the house battery will go down because these monitors which are hooked up to the battery continue to use the power. So the thing to do is if you expect the road track to be parked for any length of time is to turn off the battery switch. Also, if you take the road track to a garage to get it repaired, turn off the battery switch. These are the 3 kind of monitors that most people have. And again, change them if you haven't changed them for a while. Any questions so far? Okay.
So just a couple points that came up. You had mentioned, Harish, about you're liking to park the rear of the unit a little higher than the front, which, and you gave your reason why. An opposite reason would be if you're going to use the shower, that's not a good idea because the water then will run to the front of your floor and not down through the drain. So if you're going to use the shower, it's better to have the front a little higher than the back so that you get proper drainage down through the floor pan when you're having the shower.
Good point, Doug.
The second point that Gary brought up was, and I try and do this, is that you want to have it reasonably level for the fridge. And he's suggesting that you be within a half a bubble of being level. And it's important when we talk about being level, they're talking about the floor of the inside floor of the fridge would be the measuring point of your level. And so I have a couple spots in my RV that I know that I can put it on a counter in a certain area, which is the same ratio of levelness as the floor of my fridge. So I don't have to put the gauge in the fridge every time. I know that if I put it on a counter in a certain spot, it's the same as the reading as if it were in the bottom of the floor. So you want the rig to be a half a bubble within level, and appropriately, it's the bottom of the floor level that we're talking about.
Good point, Doug.
Okay.
Any other questions?
We do have another question here. Just a reminder, folks, please put your questions in capital letters, because otherwise I may miss them in the comments, but I just found this one. If we remove the CO2 detector and smoke detector and replace with unwired ones, do you have to do anything to save the battery? Far as I know, if you just tape off those wires, then you don't have to do anything more that I'm aware of. Any comment on that, Harish?
What I have done is I have taken the safer route. I have the wired detectors as well as the battery detectors. So on my propane detector is a wired one, but my carbon monoxide detector, I have 2 of them, a battery one and an electric one. I don't know why you would want to take the batteries off of the battery powered detector. I think the detectors are there for a reason. You should keep them working. Batteries are cheap.
No, I don't think they were suggesting not have them. I think that the suggestion was if I have battery operated units rather than 12 volt connected to my house battery units, it saves me running down my battery. But I think as long as you monitor your battery switch on the control panel, it's not really an issue. I think you may get into solar and generator more later, but there's a question, does anyone have a solar generator? But I think we'll address that later in the presentation.
Okay, just remind me about it.
Yeah.
This is concerning the plumbing system of the road track. there's a pump, and there are some people put a filter on the outside water coming in. Some people use a pressure regulator. I have a pressure regulator. Sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't use it. I think the thing to do is when I turn the tap on the hookup, I don't turn it on completely. I just turn it on just enough so that there's enough water coming into the road track. But it's a good idea to have a pressure regulator so that you don't end up bursting the pipes. The pipes are all plastic. As far as the pump is concerned, sometimes if there's a leak in your road track somewhere, off and on during the night, you will hear the pump come on. So the thing to do is either try and find where the leak is, and if you can't find the leak, just turn the pump off during the night so you can sleep peacefully. I had this problem one time, and eventually I found the leak and fixed it.
You had a comment there about an air cavity. The hot water heater may need an air cavity. That's a surprise to me. I wasn't aware of that.
There has to be an air cavity at the top of the hot water heater. That's what, and I think that has something to do with the workings of the T and P, temperature and pressure valve that is in every hot water heater. The temperature and pressure valve works best if there's a little bit of an air at the top of the hot water heater.
So how do you tell if there's a air cavity there?
You can't tell that. You just hope that it's working. And if you find some problem with it, then you drain the water and make sure that your temperature and pressure valve is working properly. Some people have had to replace them. This is the setup for the city water. The black knob is turned vertically. That is its regular position. When it is parallel to the pipe, that means that the city water is being put into the freshwater tank. A lot of people, this looks different in different road tracks. In mine, it's like a gray tap. In this one, it's just a black tap. So the important thing to remember is that then when this valve is perpendicular to the pipe, then the city water cannot get in. In order for the city water to get in, you turn it parallel. And then don't forget to turn it back on, otherwise your water pump will not work.
Okay, we have a question here from Jan Michael or Jean-Michel. Do you want to come on and ask your question? If so, just push the space bar to toggle on your microphone. It's regarding a water leak, I think.
Yeah, I have a water leak from the top of my freshwater tank. When I fill it, it starts just pouring out all over the place, and the water does. And I can't find the leak because I figured it would be a cracked fitting someplace, but those are usually on the side of the bottom, but I can't get my head up in high enough to see where the water leak is coming from. Anybody else have this problem?
Dan, you don't have to worry about that. I also have a similar situation. When I fill up the freshwater tank, then when it is completely full, there is an overflow valve, whatever you may call it, overflow opening in the tank, and the water drains out of that overflow opening. That really tells you that your freshwater tank is full and you have to turn the tap off. So it's not anything to worry about. As long as your monitors on your control panel tells you that you have full tank. I watch for the monitor when it reaches the green light. When I see the green light, I know my tank is full. I don't wait for the water to come out of the overflow valve. I just turn the tap off. So I don't think it's anything to worry about if it only happens at the time when the tank is full.
I'll check it, but I think it's at other times too. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Karen, do you want to come on and ask your question? I see you made a comment about one of those adapters with the yellow head. Maybe you can just clarify that. I'm not sure if it's a question or just a comment.
I just realized that people answered that. They said that it was just a way of attaching the blue filter more easily.
Okay,
Okay, thank you, everybody.
so any other questions before Harish continues?
Okay. Now, I already talked about the black and gray water tanks. And I mentioned that those lights are not usually always reliable. If the best thing to do is to try and flush out the gray water tank. I wanted to show you this gadget that I have that I use every time I flush it. Oops, this is the gadget. Here at the bottom, it has a turning wheel. And when you hook up this to the hose pipe, this wheel turns and sprays water inside the tank. So every time I do the black water tank, I try to flush it out. Now, of course, in some cases, you don't have availability of water to flush it out, but then you can wait until you get to a place where there's water to flush it out. The other thing I should mention is that sometimes if you're parked in a campground and there is a drain hole at the campsite where you can drain your black water tank, it's a good idea not to drain it while you are using it. It's a good idea to let it build up, let the water level build up, and then just before you leave, you can drain the black water tank. It's a messy business, but it has to be done. Also, you dump your black water first and then the gray water, because the gray water kind of acts as a flushing mechanism for your black water. Make sure that the two handles that you have, the gray water handle and the black water handle, are pushed back in before you take off. These are the two handles. When I got the Roadtrek first, both of them were colored black. So in order to remind me which is the gray water tank, I just took a paint of gray paint and spray painted the gray water tank. So I know which one is which. Small trick. Now, some people have macerators. I don't have a macerator. If you go on the internet and if you go on the Roadtrek International Cyber Rally site, you would find all kinds of issues with the macerator. In the beginning, when the macerators came, there was a big issue about the macerator hose. It kept breaking up and people didn't like it. So there was a lot of talk about how to replace the macerator hose. One of the things that I have found out in talking to people is that if the macerator gets stuck, there should be a way in which you can manually rotate the propeller. So I don't have a macerator and I cannot really give much advice on it. The only thing that I can say is that I have friends who have macerators and I've seen them turning on the engine to charge up the battery before they use the macerator.
Then Simon had a question on the dump valve. Simon, do you want to hit your toggle bar? And,
hey, everybody. Hi, it's Sam.
Hi, Sam.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Harish. Hi, guys. Very quick question. I mean, I know it's a bit of a silly question, but it was never clear to me from the start. I was always advised to dump the black first and then dump the gray so that the gray would flush out the black. But because I don't know, I haven't actually crawled under the vehicle to see how that valve mechanism works. Would I pull out the T valve and then close it and then open the other one and then close it? Or would I leave the gray one open, leave the black one open and then pull the gray one that flushes everything more thoroughly? Does it make a difference whether I leave the valve open the black valve open as I flush the gray tank? Does anyone have a quick answer for that?
I have always left the black valve open when I open up the gray valve, and I keep both of them, leave both of them open until after I have flushed it. The reason to leave the black valve open is because you also want to flush it. So I don't think you need to close the valve after you have drained the black water. You leave it open until the end of the entire operation.
Okay, perfect. Because I wasn't sure. Initially, I had pulled the black, flushed that, closed it, then opened the gray, flushed it, and then closed it. But I'm thinking what you're saying now is I can leave the black plunger pulled out as I pull out the gray at the same time to flush it even more thoroughly.
Okay, Judy, do you want to hit your space bar to toggle on your mic? You had something about your black water drain valve. Judy's not coming on, so I'll ask her question. My black water drain valve never goes all the way back in. It doesn't seem to leak out. Should I replace it?
If you feel that they are harder to push back and in, and if you cannot push it back in all the way, then it's time to replace it. It's not a big expense. You just take it to an RV dealer. He makes sure that it's all clean before you take it to the RV dealer. And it's about an hour job to replace these valves. And they cost about maybe $20 a piece or $30 a piece. So if you have any doubt about the workings of the valves, replace them.
So I'm going to give you another option, Judy, because you're not saying it's difficult to push in. You're saying it doesn't seem to go all the way back in, but it does not leak out. So if it's not leaking and it's okay to push in and out, I'm a believer in don't fix it if it ain't broke. And the second point I would throw in is you could put in some lubricant, some sort of oil, or some of the treatment for the toilet includes lubricant for the valve. You may want to just put some lubricant in your tank to lubricate that valve. But since it's going in and out okay, and it's not leaking, then I wouldn't worry about it. But you want to keep a close eye on it, of course, and go from there. Okay, Gary had a comment about the green accelerator hose is very stiff. Consider Sanicon brand replacement, which is much better for the few of us who have accelerators. There's a tip from Gary for you. Going down to Conrad, do you want to come on, toggle your mic on, push your space bar, Conrad, and ask your question?
Sorry, no question right now.
Okay.
All right, just about the refrigerator working, there is a lot of discussion on the internet about what mode your refrigerator should be when you are driving. Different people have different opinions about it. Some people are steadfastly think that you should never run the refrigerator on gas, on propane gas while you're driving. Other people don't seem to worry too much about it. But the thing that I want to point out is that if your refrigerator is on battery, then don't leave the refrigerator on battery for very long if you are parked. In the beginning, when I had a different fridge than the present one, and a couple of times when I walked away from the rig going to a shopping place or something like that, and I had left the refrigerator on battery, when I came down, the battery was considerably down. So driving with the battery on, driving when the refrigerator is on battery is a very safe practice. And driving with the refrigerator on gas, some people consider it safe, other people don't consider it safe. Some people think that the flame will go off while you're driving. It depends on the kind of fridge. So my advice to you is that do whatever your comfort level allows you to do. And the only thing I would like to point out is that when the fridge is working on battery, it is maintaining the temperature. It's not cooling down. But when the fridge is working on gas or electric, it is cooling down. So be aware, when you be very aware of the fact that the fridge is a very poor source of power when running. I mean, the battery is a very poor source of power when running the fridge. One of the technicians at Roadtrek told me one time, he said, you know, this fridge in the Roadtrek is nothing more than a glorified icebox. So you have to understand that the fridge has its limitations and you have to live with those limitations.
So Karen had a question on fridges. Karen, do you want to hit your space bar and toggle your mic on to ask your question?
Oh, actually, other people in the chat answered that one too for me. So thank you.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So
I think for the purposes of this, I think though, for the purposes of our archive video that we're doing for others, it would be nice if we could have those answers on this session, because we don't capture the chat in the video. So whoever gave you your answers, Karen, number one, if you could ask your question here, and then if whoever answered it can answer it through this, then we're capturing it for the video archive.
Okay, can I carry on?
Well, just wait and see if anybody responds to my suggestion.
Well, I was one that helped with the question, but now I've forgotten what the question was. Karen, can you?
Oh, I was noticing that when I was running my fridge on electric, it wasn't keeping cold very well at all, and nowhere near as good as propane. So I wondered if there was something wrong with the part of the fridge that uses the electricity. But anyway, I'll let you answer that one.
Those of us who answered pretty much all said, very common problem. The fridge works much better on propane than it does electric in general, and does not work well in high temperatures either way. So some of the suggestions were the small refrigerator fan that can be placed in the fridge to circulate air. Another common solution that was mentioned is some people will fill a plastic bottle, 2 plastic bottles with water, put one in the freezer, and then just rotate them from freezer to fridge to keep an extra cooling product in there. And someone mentioned making sure that the fan, I think, blows across the fins, the cooling fins. But most of us just know it's one of those things you just live with the Roadtrek.
One other point I should mention is when you are done with your trip and you come home, take your stuff out of the fridge, put them away, and then leave the fridge door open so that the water inside evaporates. Otherwise, if you don't do that, then there will be mold that will build up inside the fridge. So the thing to do is when you come back from a trip, take out your stuff from the fridge, leave the door open. And what I do is I spray the inside of the fridge with some vinegar, clean it up, and then close it. And for the next trip, I'm ready to go. So it's a good idea to keep the fridge free of mold. And the only way you can do it is to make sure that there is no moisture in the fridge. And to do that, you just leave it open for a while. This is the fan that Debbie was talking about. I used to have that fan, but somehow I've lost it. And I'm trying to find a way when I go to the RV dealer to pick up one. The other 2 items are the monitors for the temperature. If you're really fussy about how much the temperature of the fridge should be inside, then you can install a remote monitor, temperature monitor, or you can install a wired temperature monitor. I have a wired temperature monitor. As far as I'm concerned, if the beer that I drink out of the fridge is cool enough, then it's cold. I don't need to do any more. Next. As far as the propane is concerned, we talked about it earlier in another session, is that when you go to fill up the propane, then make sure that your propane valve is turned off, and also make sure that it is 3/4 full, and also make sure that there is a relief valve at the top that has to be open up. And when the propane gas starts coming out of the relief valve, you close the thing. One of my experiences with the propane tank was very troublesome. On my first summer trip, we went to the East Coast and we had to take a ferry. And as you know, when you go on the ferry, you have to turn off the propane gas and then you turn it on after you get off the ferry. Well, what I did was I did what I was supposed to do. I turned the gas on after I got off the ferry, and then the propane fridge stopped working. So I spent that entire summer without with only the electric working the fridge, not the propane. And at times I had to use my battery for the fridge. And so I ended up coming back home. I ended up with a dead battery, and the propane was still not feeding the fridge. I found out that what happens is that if you turn the valve on your tank on too suddenly, too fast, then there is a safety mechanism in these tanks that thinks that the fridge is into an accident and it turns the gas off. So that's what had happened to my fridge. I had turned on the tap too quickly and it locked up on me. So when I came back to Mobile Life, he explained the situation to me. So the thing to remember is that if you turn your propane gas off at the tank level, make sure that when you turn it on, you do it ever so slowly. Some road tracks have an additional additional valve, which is called a manual valve, at that place where you fill up the gas. And some tanks don't have it. So the valve at the tank level is kind of awkward to reach, but you have to go down there anyway to check if your propane light does not work very well, you have to go down there to check how much propane you have got. So the important thing I was wanted to mention was how to turn on the propane after you turn it off. This is just a diagram. The thing that is called the flow valve is what I'm talking about. Oh, one other thing is that in most of our vintage road tracks, the regulator for the propane tank is situated on top of the tank. It's very difficult to get to. So if you have any issues with the propane, then you may have to spend some money to get the technician to get to the top and fix that regulator. I think it's called a regulator. Generator, I already talked about servicing it. A lot of people have problems with generators. There's not much you can do about it, just to keep on top of it. The most important thing is to make sure that it's exercised regularly. Air conditioner, I have replaced my air conditioner twice, and I have to tell you that it's not an easy process. The air conditioner is sitting at a very awkward place, and in order to remove it, you have to approach from the back. You have to take out the grills at the back, and you have to take out the goop that's holding the air conditioner, and then people pushes it from the back, and another person pulls it from the front, and you take it out, and then you replace it. So it's not an easy process. The most difficult part that I encountered was replace the grill at the back. The grill has got a gasket, which is kind of a double groove gasket. It's very hard to replace. I ended up taking it to a windshield place, and they fixed the gasket for me. So replacing the air conditioner is not an easy job. It has to be done. So just be aware of it. That's all. Any questions?
Gary has a question about turning the air conditioner on. Go ahead, Gary.
Good morning, all. Just wondering, when you turn on the air conditioner, at least in going from my own experience, you can have the fan set either high or low, but the compressor, I'm not aware of a way in which you can have the compressor start other than going on or off. So perhaps a comment on that.
I think, Gary, if you keep the control on automatic, and the fan on low, the compressor will come on as and when it is needed.
Okay, that's certainly.
But Gary, there is a low setting and a high setting for the air conditioner. You have fan, you have low, and you have high. So what Harish has said is, you start with the fan only, and then you turn it to low, which means low compressor. And then after a few minutes, you turn it to high, which means high compressor.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that the compressor electrically has anything but an on or an off, and then it cycles as needed, especially if you're on the low setting on your thermostat. But on a hot day, even when you turn on your air conditioning system on the low setting, the compressor won't shut off for quite some time until the inside of your rig, cools down. It's just the fan is running slower, which does draw less electricity, but the compressor, as an electrical item, I don't believe has more than one power setting. Whatever number of watts that it draws, it's going to draw.
That's correct.
My understanding is that, and Darren's on here, so he may know, but I was told that an RV air conditioner has a kind of a decompressor attachment, which starts it up at a lower wattage draw than one you would get for a home window thing. I see Darren on here. Do you know Darren? And can you give us some input on that?
Yeah, he is correct as far as the compressor only runs 1 voltage. It's either on or off or running on these units. On a roof AC, there may be a little bit lower impact for starting on it, but for the Roadtreks, they just use window units anyways. So the compressor is either on or off. It's the fan that is got your low and high speeds.
Yeah, you're referring to what's called a smart start optional device you can put onto your Cool Cat or any other air conditioning unit. It's not a standard feature as far as I'm aware on any Roadtrek, and it does cost several $100s, and some people do use it, especially if they're using a solar / electrical rig where you're really trying to limit that surge start so that your inverter can power your air conditioner. But for those of us that have generators or running on shore power when using an air conditioner, that surge is really not much of a concern. So spending the money on a smart start is probably not really needed.
Yeah, good point.
Thanks for that clarification, guys. That's great.
Okay.
Got a question here from Susan. Susan, do you want to ask your question?
Yes. What I'd like to know is I have a 1998 190 Dodge Poplar, and I need to replace the air conditioner. And from what I'm understanding from the videos and from any information I can find, you have to pop off the grills in the back. And I'm trying to find out how I do that. Is it something that you take a screwdriver and then you go down behind the gasket, or how are those removed so I can get into there?
The gaskets have to be removed. You just take out the gaskets and the grill will come with the gasket.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
But as I mentioned, putting them back is not an easy job. I had to go to a windshield place to get it done. They have a special tool to put it back in.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, and then Rick, do you want to ask your question? Although I think there's a lot of information on the forum with regard to suggestions or links for replacement. I mean, there's got to be a post every week on that, and you can go to the forum and get the exact link. It's an LG that fits right in there.
I have a Maytag that fits right in there also.
Okay.
I replaced the original feathers with a Maytag, and keeping your fingers crossed, it's working fine so far.
Okay, so Greg Hable, do you want to make a comment about the air conditioning?
I wanted to make a comment if I could.
Well, let's take Greg first, and then we'll take you, Gary.
Yeah, I just saw some video out there that said, pulling, I mean, we own a 1991 190p Dodge, and it was, the video I saw was pulling out from inside, meaning doing nothing with the fins in the back, but unbolting kind of like, or unscrewing like a bunch of different panels because it's a real tight fit, right, for the AC. So pulling out from the inside as opposed to going through the back. But
Greg, you're correct in that the physical air conditioner itself gets pulled out from the inside and replaced. But when you put in the newer replacement air conditioners, the fins, the air ventilation fins are in a different location. And so it's in most cases necessary to change the divider fins in the back to the new cabinet of the replacement air conditioner. And the purpose of that is to make sure the output and the input air are separated, so you're not blowing out hot air and then recirculating it back into the intake of the air. So it's not replacing the air conditioner we're talking about for the rear grates coming off. It's that the fins have to, in some cases, be lengthened because the cabinetry of the new replacement air conditioner is different, and you want to make sure you divide the intake air from the output air. That's the reason you got to take the back grills off.
Oh, I see. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, and now go ahead, Gary.
A quick question for Harish. When you replaced your unit, did you have to replace the thermostat as well, or was the new unit compatible with the older thermostat?
There is no thermostat with the air conditioner. There is no thermostat. Which thermostat are you talking about, Gary?
The one that, at least on my 2012 Roadtrek, there's a digital thermostat on the rear wall, which allows you to select either air conditioning, heat pump, or furnace. And that digital thermostat obviously is wired to both the furnace and the heat pump air conditioner unit, the CoolCat. So I'm wondering, if you replace your air conditioner, did you also have to replace whatever it is that you're using to control it?
No, Gary, mine is in 1998, and there was no thermostat attached to the fridge.
Oh.
The fridge was a freestanding fridge.
You mean freestanding air conditioning unit?
I'm sorry, a freestanding air conditioning unit, yes.
Okay, fair enough. That's obviously an older unit and done differently.
Okay, I just went to the back.
Francois has a question here about removing your air conditioner.
Okay.
We don't live in a hot climate, so we're thinking of removing the air conditioner entirely, and that would also gain us space. Is there a procedure anywhere on YouTube, or you guys have done it, that we could follow? From the front, from the back?
Yes, there's all sorts of YouTubes on this. Also, if you look at the forum, and especially in the file section, in fact, I think Lynn created a document that it gives you a step-by-step instructions for removing it. As for leaving it out, you'd have to figure out some way to seal up that compartment from the weather, and you may want to put a liner in there or something to finish it off, because essentially that air conditioner sits on the former roof of the van, the original van roof. So you may want to make a little box insert there to keep the elements out from the weather and to finish it off. But there's all sorts of information on how to take that out of there.
Can I just add that Doug is referring to the Facebook group that is called Classic and Vintage Road Treks, right, Doug?
Yeah.
And their files have a lot of information on removing and replacing the air conditioner. Also, if you do a search, it's not great, but if you were to just search remove air conditioner, I know there are people that have done it and done what Doug said, filled it in and the whole bit, but you'd have to do some searching on that Facebook group.
While we are on the subject of searching, I should point out that most of the information that I have accumulated, this was long before the Roadtrek or the Facebook groups evolved. Most of the information that I have collected has come from a feature that is a part of Roadtrek International. It's called Cyber Rally. If you belong to Roadtrek International, then you automatically belong to this Cyber Rally group. And every morning you get an email where different people have asked different questions and different people have answered different questions. They also have an archives where you can go back and check any issues that are not current but have been discussed in the past. So one of the main advantages of belonging to Roadtrek International is the Cyber Rally where all these technical issues are discussed. Can I carry on?
Yes, we got the rally right here, and we got the international road track rep here doing it. So we've already got our
Exactly.
own cyber rally, man.
Yeah. Can I also add, relating to that, Harish, you do have to belong to the FMCA, Family Motor Coach Association, in order to join the Roadtrek group. And it's something to think about. Yes, it costs, but it also has some added value that membership in the FMCA includes a medical evacuation plan that would cost you more than the membership of the FMCA is. So you might be interested in looking at that. It's called FMC Assist, FMCA SSIST, FMCA Assist. But definitely you would have to belong to both organizations.
Yes, Debbie's right, because the Roadtrek International is a chapter of FMCA, and therefore in order to belong to Roadtrek International, you have to become a member of FMCA. The expense is something like $60 American for belonging to FMCA and about $30 for belonging to Roadtrek International.
Just got my bill, it's up to 75 now. They are struggling.
Yeah.
Can I also make a comment? The Cyber Rally files are still on the Roadtrek International site. The actual group comments have moved to groups.io. And there is also another Roadtrek group on groups.io called Road Trekkers, which also has a lot of information and files to be searched.
So the point of all these comments is that there is a lot of information available. If you want to dig for the information, whether it's your fridge or whether it's your air conditioner or whether it's your water pump, there's all kinds of information available. And you can always talk to, but Debbie, just to your point about belonging to the FMCA and Roadtrek International, I just want to make one comment. And that is that I've been a member of Roadtrek International since 1999. And I have not regretted the expense involved. And the reason being that it has enabled me to go to all these rallies and meet all these people from all over North America. Through these Roadtrek International rallies, I've made friends from Alaska to Florida and from Newfoundland to Vancouver Island. So not only that, I have gained a lot of knowledge. Some of these friendships are still continuing and we still meet each other. So I think expense is an important point, but you have to look at the cost benefit ratio. In this case, I didn't mind spending the money because it gave me a lot of benefits and a lot of enjoyment of meeting with other people.
Well, and that is why I mentioned that the cost of belonging to FMCA has a tremendous value. Some people might think, well, I don't want to spend that kind of money for a magazine, but that medical evacuation assist program is quite a value for their membership.
Great. Coming back to the furnace, when I was running these Roadtrek technical rallies, we used to get technicians from Suburban, the company that makes the furnace, to come and explain to us how this unit is built and so on, so on. And I was absolutely amazed at the number of, or the number of safety features that are built into this furnace. And it's really essentially maintenance free. All you have to do is to make sure that the air intake is open and it works fine. And the thing to do is to just, when you turn it on after it has been stored for a while, it gives you some sort of a smell of burnt dust particles. But essentially, there is not much required to maintain the furnace. It's a very, very well-built unit by Suburban. There's been a lot of discussion about the hot water heater. At the bottom is the anode rod, and this is what it looks like, anode rod. Mine is a little bit chewed up at the entry level. So the thing to do is when you winterize, you take the anode rod out and drain the water out after putting the hot water bypass on. And replace the anode rod if it is looks like it's chewed up, like at the end here. The other thing I want to point out is that this nut here is 1 16 inch. You need 1 16 inch socket to take this out and put it back on. Other than that, I think it's important to make sure that the burner, before we go on, I had just gone to the back of my rig to pull out this thing here. This is a filter for the air conditioner. So I make sure that I pull it out every time and I clean it up and put it back on. Sorry, but backtracking. So some people complain about their hot water heater not working properly. And in most cases, what happens is there's some spiders and stuff gets into the area where the gas comes in and burns. So the thing to do is to make sure that it's kept clean. There's also a reset button there. If the heater stops working, you can always reset it. Other than that, there's not really much to say about the hot water. Some people have a electric hot water heater. I have gas, so I have not had any problems with this hot water heater. One trick I use is that when I'm using the hot water heater in the fall time, what we do is we just turn the hot water heat on at nighttime and make sure that it's all hot. And next morning when we wake up, there's hot water for us to use. Next.
Gary mentioned the sail switch. Do you want to just comment on that as being a common troubleshooting problem?
Yeah, for those people that if they find their furnace is blowing cold air and they check that they have a full tank of propane and their stove is working okay, the most common failure of the furnace is a mechanical sail switch, which actually allows the furnace to know that the fan is running in the furnace and therefore it can now ignite propane and generate heat. And if for some reason that switch sticks, which unfortunately does happen once in a while, especially if it's an older unit, then even though you have propane and the furnace is electrically working fine, it simply won't open its gas valve to feed propane to itself. So that's not necessarily a user serviceable item unless you're pretty handy, but something to consider. Another thing that I wanted to mention with regard to the hot water heater, to save propane and also not waste water by having to mix hot and cold, I found that I took a simple remote sensing aquarium thermometer where the probe is separate from the display, and just literally stuck the probe into the styrofoam / putty that is right next to the outlet pipe of the hot water heater, and I can monitor that temperature. And after a little experimentation, I figured out that I can turn on the hot water heater, watch that temperature gauge time to time, and when it hits a particular number, shut off the heater, and then the hot water, when running on full on your tap, will be exactly the temperature you enjoy. So no mixing is necessary, no guesswork, and no waste. And the temperature for the thermometer cost about $3 on Amazon. So just a helpful hint. And back to you, Doug.
Okay, thanks, Gary. We have a question from Joe McKay. Do you want to come on and ask your question, Joe? Just push your space bar to toggle your microphone on.
Hi there. I was just wondering, I heard about different types of anode rods, meaning aluminum or magnesium. And so I'm wondering which is better. And then also on the pressure valve there, I know mine will lift and I can release the pressure of the hot water heater, but I can't fully pull it all the way open and leave it open. Should it be able to do that?
Pull what all the way open?
The little pressure valve,
oh, it is,
lever.
It is spring loaded. It will go back to its position once you release it.
Okay, so it shouldn't be able to be
Joe, is no, you don't. Open. Joe, you really don't want to be fiddling with that. Okay. Number one, it won't come all the way open. Number two, you don't want to use that to relieve pressure because then it may not seat properly or work properly. You want to release your water pressure with your taps, not with that pressure relief valve. You don't want to fiddle with it.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I just want to show this gadget that I have, which I use in order to clean the inside of the hot water tank. When I'm doing the winterizing, I clean it all out with this little thing that hooks on at the end of the hose. There's any other questions? Okay.
Jean just mentioned that it only takes about 15 minutes or less for the water tank to heat up, so she doesn't leave hers on all night. She just turns it on in the morning, and it's by the time she needs her hot water, it's ready.
Good point. I also should mention that when you are, sorry, did I interrupt anybody?
Well, I didn't, the magnesium and the aluminum, I wasn't
Oh,
sure.
yes, exactly. Both are equally good. I prefer magnesium. It lasts longer. This one that I just showed you happens to be an aluminum. And even though the rest of it is good, but it's kind of chewed up at the beginning. The magnesium one are kind of harder and harder to get. You can order it online, but it's hard to get on an RV dealer. So I prefer magnesium. Aluminum is also equally good, except it doesn't last as long. Coming back to the before I leave the subject of the hot water heater, I should point out this thing, that when you are filling up, when in the springtime, when you are de-winterizing your road trek, you want to put freshwater into the freshwater tank. And at that time, once you have filled up the tank with fresh water, you also have to make sure that the tank from the freshwater also goes into the hot water heater. So to do that, what you do is you turn your pump on, and then you turn one of your taps on, and you will notice that there is air coming out of the tap. When the air stops coming and the water stops coming and the water starts coming, that means that your hot water tank has got hot water in it. So it's important to make sure that after you fill up your freshwater tank with fresh water, you also try and use the pump to fill up the hot water tank with water. The fan is I don't think they've supplied this fantastic fan anymore. Mine is an old one. I think the company's gone out of business, but there may be still some places where you can get the fantastic fan. It's a very useful.
Fantastic fan was bought by Domestic. So if you need any fantastic fan parts, they're available from Domestic.
Okay, well, without sounding like putting a plug for the company, it is one of the best companies that I've dealt with. In the old days, if you had any problem with the fan, they will send you a new one free of charge.
They still do. They still do.
Great company to deal with. By the way, it's very easy to take the fan assembly off and clean it up, because some dust gets on the blades and so on. So it's very easy to take it off with a couple of screwdrivers, clean it up, and put it back together. Tires, front, I keep front 65 and 80 in the back. Doesn't have to be exactly 80. 75 to 80 will be fine. 60 to 65 in the front will be fine. That's for my Dodge. So I don't know what the others have. Some people have 250 model, not the 3500 model. So you just have to make sure that the tire pressure is according to, as far as the age of the tires is concerned, most people say that after 5 or 7 years, you should replace them. Because even though the tire tread looks good, there are hairline cracks in the tires. I don't know much about this weight situation. This was put in by John Roy. In the States, a lot of people are concerned about the weight of their road trek, so they go and get it weighed in the front and in the back. I'm not quite sure what's the purpose of that, but that's just some information about the weight. Lead acid batteries and AGM and gel batteries. In the back, I have AGM batteries. I used to have gel batteries, but I replaced them with the AGM batteries, which is the house battery. I say in the back, I mean the house battery. And in the front, at the engine battery, is a lead acid battery. So the thing to remember about the AGM batteries or gel batteries is that never to let the voltage in the battery go down below 10.5 volts. So I have a little gadget that is attached to one of my cigarette lighter plugs, and it always tells me what the voltage of my house battery is. And I think the thing to do also is to monitor the battery by turning off the battery switch when you don't need it. What happens when the voltage drops below 10.5, a process starts which is called sulfatization, and that ruins the battery cells. So I prefer AGM, but some people prefer gel. Some people also have got wet cell batteries or lead acid batteries as house batteries. I have never had it. I'm not quite sure what maintenance is required. I know that the battery in the front, the engine battery, off and on, I have to check the water level in it or the electrolyte level. Thanks.
Okay, we've got a comment here from Simon for the house batteries. He's suggesting we try and make sure we get a deep cycle battery designated for RV repeated discharges.
Good point. Good point. Yeah. There are two, as far as the antennas are concerned, in somewhere inside your TV cabinet, there's a switch that switches between antenna and cable. I have never used a cable because most of the campgrounds that I go to, there's never any cable. So I have used the antenna, the existing antenna on the Roadtrek, which is an antenna that runs around the ceiling all around. And most of the time when I've camped in a reasonably good place, like near a good population, I can get some 3 to 4 TV stations. We don't watch TV much when we are camped because there is so many other things to do. I have seen road trekkers with all kinds of satellite dishes and all kinds of equipment to watch TV. But I think that when you are road trekking, there is a lot more other things to watch than to watch TV. I do have a DVD in here, and sometimes on a rainy day, we just turn the DVD on and watch it.
In my RV, I've got actually 2 attachments. I don't have a switch. I got a 2000 Dodge Versatile, and I have 2 attachments, one for the coax cable and one for the antenna. So rather than a switch, you may have 2 places to attach your television to.
Good point. Good point. As far as the awning is concerned, the important thing to remember is don't leave the awning on at the end of the day when you go back to sleep, because you don't know when the wind will pick up, and it's not very good for the awning. I find it easier to roll out the awning halfway, so that, and it is also safe that way too, so that my outdoor furniture can sit underneath the awning when I'm gone to bed. And if it is like 2 feet or 3 feet from the wall, it's not a big risk that you're taking for the awning to be affected by the wind. Another thing some people say is that if you take the middle support rod off the awning, then it helps you to drain the water better. You have to have one side of the awning lower than the other, and the rainwater drains out better if you don't have the middle support rod in. I have tried it and it seems to work. Most people are familiar with what kind of cables they have to carry. Some pictures here. General maintenance, you have to take the usual tools, etc., and so on. Tape, duct tape, WD-40, silicone spray, jumper cables, the usual stuff, always carry a little bit of a packet of some tools with you. First aid kits, flashlights, etc. These are the essential spare parts. I mean, everybody does it according to their own requirement and according to what they think is necessary. Just make sure that you have, some spare parts available if you need it. One of the things that we did when we went to Alaska, twice, is that I always carried there is a belt in the front of the engine, what is it called? There's a belt.
Serpentine belt. Serpentine belt.
Serpentine belt. I always carried a serpentine belt when I'm on long distance trips because these things are hard to get when you are in small towns and so on. This is a small heater that you can use to heat up. Again, just all common sense things to make lists of everything. I think there is a lot of information on the net about winterizing and dewinterizing. I don't think I need to spend any special time on it. I have a bypass valve on my freshwater tank, so I only use about a couple of gallons of winterizing liquid in order to winterize the tank. But some people put antifreeze in their tank and they pump it through the pipes. Some people just blow out the water. So different people use different techniques for winterizing. The important thing is to not have any water in the tubes, in the pipes when you are.
So is there anybody on here that just blows their lines out and doesn't do any antifreeze?
I've done that, and I ultimately found that unless you've got a compressor with a variable regulator to stay at or below 40 psi, it's a bit of a risk to do and a bit of a pain. And also you need certain adapters in order to not have to manually hold the air pressure outlet to the city water inlet, which is where you would blow water in or blow air into. Ultimately, I found it's easier to have the three-way valve at the pump that allows you to suck the antifreeze into the system very easily and only use about 1.5 to 2 gallons to winterize a whole rig, which in my case is a 210.
Okay, what happens to the line from the fresh water tank to the pump, though, when you do it that way?
Compressed air will actually flow through the pump and into all the water lines, so the pump will actually get blown clean as well, which is perfectly fine. Doesn't hurt the pump at all as long as you keep your maximum pressure 40 or below.
No, but when you're using the suction at the pump, then there's that line from the fresh water tank to the pump that does not get any antifreeze, or does it even need it?
What I do then is I take a small hard item like either, let's say, a nail or a pen, and with the pump turned on and able to suck antifreeze, I go to the city water inlet and push in the little check valve so that antifreeze will actually come out from that port. Be careful, however, because if you're in front of it, you're going to get a face full of antifreeze. But you only need to press in the check valve momentarily to just basically let all the water that's in that line come out, and when it comes out pink, you're good. It is a little bit messy, nothing tragic, but like I say, it will come out under pressure. So that's the way to make sure that line is also filled with antifreeze.
Okay, I just dump it in my fresh water tank, and usually I do it with a gallon. The odd time, if I don't shut the tap off soon enough, I might have to put another half gallon, but I think the maximum I've ever used is 2 jugs. Now, Gary, while you're there, you had made a comment about towing and recovery rope or cable.
Yes, I just mentioned because of mentioning booster cables for the batteries, which make sure you get good long ones because you could literally boost yourself if necessary, as long as you've got a cable long enough to go from the house battery to the chassis battery. There is a more elegant way of doing it at the isolator, but I won't get into that. At the end of the day, my comment was regarding people who might be a little brave and carry a tow cable. So if you get stuck, somebody can pull you out. And that can happen in a muddy area or soft ground. But keep in mind that the Roadtrek weighs roughly 4 tons, or that would be about 8,000 to 9,000 pounds for many of these rigs. And for the safety factor, you're looking for a recovery strap that has elasticity rather than something like a chain that doesn't. You need to know where you can hook it up on your rig, and you need to get the type that is elastic, which means it's a recovery rope, not a tow rope, and should be rated for a minimum of 20,000 pounds. So if you don't know what you're doing, that's fine. If you do know what you're doing, just be aware of all these parameters so that you don't end up hurting yourself or the rig.
Thank you. And Debbie just mentioned she uses one of those small battery charging power packs instead of jumper cables. And you see those advertised and in many auto supply stores these days. So that's another option. Greg Habel says that he does a blowout in Massachusetts, I'm assuming. Gary, do you want to just tell us what you do and how it works and if it's okay?
Hello. Yes. Yeah. Just hooking up a compressor with not too high of a pressure to blow, to cause any damage to the pipes, and blowing out the sink and then the toilet and stuff, and then adding in RV antifreeze into the sink trap and then into the black tank and stuff. And we've never had any issues with any freezing pipes or anything like that. So
so what's your process? Do you have one person blowing air into the city water intake and then someone else opening taps, or how do you do it?
That's exactly right. Yeah, two-person job.
And do you open those taps in a certain sequence, or you just start opening taps?
The sink. First of all, we don't have a hot water heater. So just the sink tap first, yep, to blow that out, and then once that's all blown out, then we go ahead and do the toilet.
And do you close the tap while you're doing the toilet?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and just a quick answer to Karen, because we're running out of time here. No, we're not talking about a trickle charger, Karen. We're talking about a little battery pack that you can buy at any auto supply store for $100 plus or minus, which is got a battery in it, and it's got enough charge to get you to jumpstart a vehicle, and maybe you could do it twice, but then you would recharge it. Okay, carry on, Harish.
Okay, just about jumpstarting. There's a mention in the archives about jumpstarting. If your engine battery is dead and your house battery is fully charged, you can use the isolator to get your engine going. That's also a procedure, but you only do it for like a few seconds. It's a two-person job, one in front of the battery and the other person at the wheel. So what you do is you connect the two terminals, one going to the house battery and one going to the isolator, one going to the battery, just temporarily for a few seconds, and you can get the engine going this way. But I don't recommend this to everybody. I think you got to know what you're doing. Coming back to the lubricant, the winterizing, one of the tricks that I use is that at the end of the winterizing procedure, I pour in a little bit of lubricant at the bottom of the toilet bowl, and it stays there all winter. So the reason for that is that it lubricates the lip. It lubricates the lip that goes back and forth when you use the toilet. These are the resources that you can, the first one is important that I mentioned, roadtrekchapter.org. By the way, recently, if you go on this website, roadtrekchapter.org, it has the current newsletter, November, December newsletter, which does not require a password. You can read it, and it gives you information about the chapter. However, if you want to go into the chapter pages, then you need a password and a website password for that, which is only available to the members. This presentation that I'm presenting is also one of the web pages at the roadtrekchapter.org website. But you can only access it if you are a member. No, some
Just hold on here, Harish. Darren has his hand up. Come on, Darren, if you've got a comment or a question, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment, if you have a water heater, that the water heater bypass is so handy when you winterize these things. If you don't have a bypass system on your water heater, they're not that expensive, and they're pretty easy to put in, and it makes winterizing so much easier.
Yeah, great input, Darren. Thank you for that. Debbie is just asking, she's got a new toilet, so she doesn't want to put antifreeze, pink antifreeze in her new toilet and stain it. The answer is to pour it down through the hole, Debbie. You don't have to pour it onto your new toilet. Just hold your flush valve open and pour it down the hole. And there's no need to put it on your toilet to stain it.
Thank you very much.
And it really doesn't stain the toilet. What I do is in the wintertime, I put a little bit of lubricant at the bottom of the bowl, and I put a little bit of antifreeze above it. So it just stays there all winter. It does not stain it. These are some additional peripheral topics that they are not important. They're not extremely urgent, but there are some road treks have devices that you can use to lift up the back tire. I don't have this thing, so I'm just showing this thing to you. Spare tire lift devices. If you have issues with lifting up the spare tire, then you can use one of these devices. Overnight parking, Walmart and this and that. So the important thing to remember is that if you park at Walmart, make sure that you have permission from them to park. I usually go to a Walmart where there's other people parked, and I ask them if they have asked for permission. The important thing to remember is that you don't set up a campsite at a Walmart parking lot. You use this for only overnight. We have used other places to park at night when we are stuck. I have parked at pharmacies, I have parked at school libraries, I have parked at hospitals. So if you're stuck, you can always go and ask if you can overnight park it. GPS is good. You have to, it's good to, if you're going in an unknown territory. Also, the backup cameras are good to have. I have one installed here on my rig. I went for a wired backup camera as opposed to a wireless backup camera because I was not quite sure if the wireless backup camera would work properly. And one of my good friends, Roger Brooker, who goes by the name of Redrick Rover, helped me install this backup camera that I have. Okay, there is devices under the hood that you should be familiar with. One is called an isolator, one is called a separator. Basically, what this device does is it isolates the voltage coming from the, the part that generates electricity.
Alternator.
Alternator. So on my isolator, I've got these labels attached to them. On the left-hand side, it says to engine battery. On the right-hand side, it says to house battery. And this is from the alternator. The isolator does the same sort of thing. The separator does the same sort of thing. Go back. Separator works with a solenoid. So everybody clear on the use of the isolator and separator? Any questions? No. This, some people have added these heat dispersing fins at the back of the road track for dispersing the heat of the air conditioner. This kit is no longer available. I have it installed on my fridge at the back called a Snyder kit. Basically what it does is it cools the hot coils of the fridge. There is an organization which is called Solo Trackers. This is for single people. If you go to the Roadtrek International site, it will give you contact person to talk to about solo trekkers, single people traveling. It's they don't have any rallies or anything. Most of the time they have a rally in conjunction with another rally that people go to. So there's an organization called Solo Trekkers. For most of them, right now traveling to Canada is banned. But if you do happen to come to Canada, you have to be careful, make sure that you have the proper paperwork and you don't make jokes with the border guards. They don't have a very good sense of humor. Do not carry arms into Canada, etc., etc. So traveling to Canada it requires certain things. You don't have to worry about your currency. Your currency is acceptable in Canada too. This is about the phone service. It's again a matter of personal choice. You use whatever phone service you use. When traveling to rallies, you make sure that you let the pets have to be taken care of. When I was running my rallies, I always used to make arrangement with a pet grooming pet place where you can board the pets when you are on traveling, when you are involved with the rally. Whenever I travel, I just always make sure I check all the liquids underneath the hood. We have already gone over the toilet maintenance. I don't store indoors, I store it outside. Some people store it inside. But the thing that I am kind of concerned about is that during the winter time, you have to make sure that you take out your road trek for a spin every once in a while. So if you have it stored somewhere else, you may not be able to do that.
Okay, we've got a question from Joe. I can't take my road trek on the road in the winter because of salt. Is it bad to let it sit without running? I have the same thing. I store mine inside actually during the winter, but usually every 6 weeks I go over and I pick a nice day when the sun is shining and the roads are clear, and I take it for a drive for at least 30 minutes. Or if I'm going somewhere, I'll take it. And also don't forget to exercise the generator I do it every 6 weeks. Some people say 4. But there's no reason you can't run it on a nice day in the winter time, assuming the roads are clear. And I suggest you do that so the brakes don't seize up and so you don't get flat spots in your tires. Aaron, I think, had a comment.
Just a real quick comment for storing your road trek. Don't store them on the grass next to your garage. I've bought tons of these road treks and camper vans, whether you buy them from south or buy them from the north. You can buy a rusty one if they were stored improperly. As long as you store them on a slab of cement, you're fine. But when you store it on the grass, that moisture just seeps up and rusts it out from underneath. So it could be a clean, rust-free body, but you could be wrecking it from underneath with the moisture from the grass. So just don't store it on the grass.
Darren, can I ask a question then?
Sure.
I'm storing it on a gravel right beside my driveway because the driveway is not wide enough. It's a gravel add-on. Is that okay?
Yeah, gravel's way better than grass. The moisture goes down through the gravel instead of comes up from the grass. So you're good on that.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, the fire extinguisher, unfortunately mine is still the original, but I've been told that I have to get it replaced. Apparently, if you call the company, Kiddie Company, they will replace it at no charge because these have gone, there's some problem with it. It's the fire extinguisher. Again, important things to remember about coverage and so on. Roadside assistance, different people have different ideas about this. I am in Canada, so I use CAA for roadside assistance. Other people use SAM roadside assistance. It depends on you. I was not very happy with the service that SAM provided, so I went to Canadian Automobile Association. They have a feature where if you become an RV member, RV Premier membership, then the first tow up to 320 kilometers is free. Then you have 4 other tows after that. So again, it's a matter of personal choice. There's all kinds of information on the net about which company is good, which company is not very good. Some people go join the Boondockers and so on, different associations. So that's it. And this was a slogan of Roadtrek company, fuel efficient motorhomes you love to drive. Then they came up with earlier they came up with another motto or another byline which says the motorhome that drives like a van. To that I added motorhome that drives like a van and brings people together that nothing else can.
Well, we've had a really good discussion here today, and thank you for everyone's input. And we've shared a lot of ideas and tips and techniques, and especially thank you to Harish for sharing your presentation with us. It's been great to learn a lot of things. Some things we knew, but some things we needed to be reminded of. So Harish, thank you so much for sharing your time and your knowledge and experience with us. And we hope it was worthwhile for everyone. From the comments, it looks as though everybody feels they had time well spent here this morning. So we will call it a morning, and we will look forward to seeing you next month, the third Saturday of the month, 10 a.m. We'll see you next month. So thanks for coming, everyone. A great turnout this morning. You're a popular guy, Harish. So I
should thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my ideas with you.
No, that's great.
Can I add, Harish? What a superb job you did with the preparation. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome, Debbie. Thank you. I should mention that my Roadtrek has 310,000 kilometers on it right now. It's like 192,000 miles. And I intend to keep it for another 310,000 kilometers. It's important to remember that you got to keep your vehicle in good top shape all the time. If you find any small issues, any small problem, make sure that you take care of it right away. Don't let it drag on. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity of sharing my ideas with you. It's been a pleasure.
Very good. Take care, everyone. Travel safely.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.